guys, it's Holly, and I feel like this room is absolutely perfect for the set we are covering today, as I will be reviewing the brand new The Mandalorian's N-1 Starfighter, which is set 75325 and will be releasing on June 1st for $60 as well as 100 Australian, and I'm incredibly excited for this set. Usually we don't get ships around this price range, and just like a lot of people seeing it in the Book of Boba Fett, I was incredibly excited. The build is incredibly interesting but very flat, and overall it just makes me really excited, especially the brand new BD droid. However, I'm really still disappointed about the Darksaber, even though I did make my own. Would have been really nice to have a custom molded one, but I guess oh well. This set should still be available for pre-order as well during the May the 4th promotion if you're watching this at that time, and if you are planning on pre-ordering or even just buying the set in general, I will leave affiliate links in the description down below for that. Now, LEGO did send me this set to review, so let's crack it open because I'm incredibly excited to show you guys it. Now, before I talk about anything relating to the set itself, I wanted to touch over these instructions because, look, it's underwhelming. Firstly, the cover for this set just looks very odd. I know there was a couple of people in LAN who got sent this set as well that were really confused just by the way it looked. This render looks incredibly dodgy. It looks very, very, very preliminary, and just honestly, it looks like someone's just like thrown this into like Blender or Mecha Bricks and spat it out. It's not the greatest quality. Also, the cover of the booklet having this weird like white thing, it feels too 4+ to me and just a little bit too young, and considering Star Wars is a theme that is enjoyed by all ages, it's really unfortunate to see something like this happening, especially just the quality of this render. It looks like an error. It doesn't look official, it doesn't look proper, it doesn't look finished, and it makes me wonder how rushed this whole process was. Like, I know that this probably went into production very quickly and had a tight turnaround time, but it feels like we're cutting some corners here, and honestly, it's not what I expect from LEGO's quality. I know this is just the instructions, but that is definitely something that I've noticed, and I'm sure you will notice looking at this thing, that it's just not fantastic. The rest of it seems fine, like there were no real issues, but yeah, I just did not like that render quality at all on the front cover, which is really unfortunate. Now, our first minifigure from this set is the Mandalorian himself, and overall, this figure I personally think is, just a tiny bit worse, in my opinion, to the Mandalorian with the cape. Personally, I prefer the cape. It's great that we have the jetpack, and it's great that we have some form of representation for the Darksaber. By far, the best thing about this figure is the brand new, exclusive, currently at least, face print of Din Djarin. I love the print for this thing. To have a proper Pedro Pascal face is fantastic. Honestly, if you've got one of those old Wonder Woman sets, get this head and swap it out. It's fantastic. Definitely the highlight of this minifigure, and it definitely as well makes the Mandalorian minifigure more interesting, considering we've had multiple versions of his now, especially in the Beskar armor, so it's really nice to get an update. Even if it's not the Darksaber, at least we have a printed head. That is a really big win in my book, but I think it should have definitely had that custom molded Darksaber as well. It's really quite disappointing. Next up is the child, and really there's nothing all too special about him. He's exactly the same as we've gotten before. Chances are you've probably already got this version, so I'm not going to spend too long talking about him. Now, our first new character in this set is Pelly, and overall, I really like her. I think this hairpiece is a really smart usage. However, I do feel like this hair is a tiny bit too long for Pelly's actual character, but at the same time, I didn't really expect LEGO to use anything different, so it's fine. One thing I really like about her, though, is her face. I think her face print looks incredible, and it's really good to get a brand new face print for this character. I feel like we don't really have too many, I guess, just like older female faces, so it's amazing to get this. Part of me was scared that they were going to reuse sort of the Molly Weasley face from Lego Harry Potter, so I'm really glad to see that we have something else here. Her torso print as well is pretty neat. I'm not surprised that she doesn't have leg printing, and I really feel like the brown belt is an incredibly awesome touch and does add a lot of detail without Lego really doing much printing, which is smart on their part, and honestly, I'm a pretty big fan of it. Like, I don't think we necessarily needed leg printing for her. She also does come along with this this metallic silver spanner, which is pretty neat but doesn't really do much. And overall, I'm a really big fan of the figure, and she was a really neat inclusion. I feel like Lego could have just thrown the Mandalorian and Grogu in and called it a day, so it's really good to get her. And lastly is the BD droid. Now, I haven't played Jedi Fallen Order, but I know he's a really big part of that video game, and it's awesome to see him in Lego form. I mean, I was pretty excited to see him in the Mandalorian show. I thought he was adorable, and it's so good to have him in this set as well as Pelly. I also imagine that this exact mold will also appear in the buildable rumored BD droid that is set to hopefully come out in summer of this year. And overall, I think it's an incredibly cute mold. Part of me wishes that there was some posability, but at this sort of scale, I'm really not surprised with what they went for, and what they went for is really, really cute and really neat. Now for this review, considering this tabletop is not the widest of platforms, I do want to try something different in showing you off this set by being a bit more hands-on and a bit more up close. And firstly, my impressions of the set overall is that I'm pretty impressed. Now admittedly, just like a lot of Star Wars sets, it doesn't feel like overall like there's too much value here. The ship is very flat, and just looking at it, it doesn't overall look like there's that much to it. Like these wings here are incredibly bare bones. These thrusters though are really detailed and look amazing. The core is very stable, and there is a little bit of weight to it. I think it would display as well incredibly nicely on an angled display stand, which would be amazing. And overall, the design looks amazing, but it does feel just a little bit minimal. But at the same time, I don't think I would want too much more detail overall. Now, the set does have a couple of stickers. Overall, there's not too many, and I don't personally find them a big deal, but I did want to let you know. So starting off at the front of the ship, you have these really cool thrusters slash boosters that are incredibly detailed, and honestly, the hollowed out approach makes it incredibly interesting. I saw quite a lot of mocks that did a more enclosed version of this. Personally, I really like it. There's also some really clever parts usage using these like paddles, as well as some like railing pieces, even some little lightsaber hilts and the good old blaster guns. Overall, this feels really well done, and at first I thought it was going to be quite lame and quite minimal, but I do quite like how it's clean but also rustic, and it really does sort of give like a good old I've updated some space junk sort of feel, which is the entire, I guess, purpose of the ship. Pelly has upgraded an Naboo Starfighter. It's meant to feel a bit more run down than say something like the Razor Crest was. The booster on the right is slightly different with a stickered panel on the top, but for the most part the build is pretty much exactly the same. There's no additional details or anything like that besides that little stickered piece. The front of the ship is definitely the most boring part. It's really just a bunch of grey plates with a couple of tiles in there. There's not a lot of detail, not a lot going on. It just feels very, very plain, besides these two little cannon looking things at the front. And I do really love this smoothed over dome piece. And as you sort of head into the center, I love this round sticker tile, even though it is a pain to put on circle stickers. The rest of it feels very smooth and very clean, which I absolutely love, using a ton of curved pieces as well of some of those like inverted curved pieces and the good old metal slopes, and it's just really, really clean compared to this sort of more exposed front end of this ship. As we head into the center, you get a tiny bit of Naboo Starfighter coloring with these yellow cheese slopes and curved pieces, and overall, I really do like it. It does sort of give it a tiny bit of character, which matches pretty well with the actual ship itself. And in here as well, there is actually space to put the Mandalorian, which is really neat. There is even a little stickered control panel tile on the inside there, which is a really neat detail. Again, it is a pain to stick on circle stickers, but I do really like the printing of this one. And of course, it's not just the Mandalorian who gets a little cockpit. Grogu does have one for himself in the back, where he can just attach on by this single stud jumper plate thing, which is pretty neat. I love how simple and minimalistic it is. And overall, this has really quite a clean finish. There's only a tiny bit of gapping on the side of the Mandalorian's cockpit, but for the most part, it is sort of all one complete thing. I just feel like maybe Grogu's seat should have been up just a tiny bit higher, just to make this cockpit piece feel a bit more flush with the rest of the bricks here. And as you head to the tail, it definitely feels a little more bare bones. I do like what the designers have done with this, but it overall just feels a tiny bit flimsy. Like this piece at the back can very easily pop off. The bottom should be okay, but this top piece, however, it kind of does fall around a little bit. It's also not entirely secure. This whole thing can move on a little bit of a hinge there. It's overall kind of boring, kind of plain, but I mean, I don't know what else I personally would have done. It's not like I'm a particularly good mock builder, but I do feel like some of the mocks I have seen did do this section better than LEGO has done here. Now, lastly on the ship, I did want to talk about the bottom of it, starting off with this little booster at the back, which is a pretty neat small build. However, it is quite loose. As you can see, it's already sort of coming off with the studs here. It's really not that secure. It does look really good, but I wouldn't knock it because it is definitely going to fall off, which is quite unfortunate. I feel like it really needed some sort of like Technic axle rod or something just to hold it together a tiny bit more. Lastly as well, if you look at the bottom, there is a good old stud shooter, which is activated by this round plate on the top. However, I don't want to fire it because I'm scared I'm going to lose it amongst all of my luggage. Overall, I do really enjoy this set. It just feels like there are a couple of corners cut due to probably the fact, and at least I hope the fact, that this was a very quick turnaround. There are a few things that aren't quite as stable as I feel like I expect from LEGO's standards, but overall, it's a pretty neat ship and I'm really glad that we do have it. I love the BD droid. I love Pelly. I'm annoyed at the fact that we don't have a Darksaber. I'm also annoyed at the fact that just a couple of pieces fall off here and there, not to mention how the instructions look. It's just not an overall clean look that you'd expect from LEGO, but I really like this ship for what it is. I think the design looks great. I just wish that there was just a tiny bit more going on in this front section for the price. I do definitely recommend it, and especially if you're going to pick it up during the May the 4th period, I definitely would probably buy another set though, as well as it, so that your promos will ship during the actual time period. But if you guys enjoyed this video and enjoyed the Star Wars room, please give me a big thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel down below. And until next time, guys, I'll see you later.